one at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
Mr. Jet Central.
Tyson, what's good, dude? How you doing?
Long time. It seems like I haven't talked to you in like 2 weeks. It seems like it's been forever.
Yeah, dude, it's been a minute. And just a heads up for everyone watching, right? So last Tuesday, couldn't make it happen. This upcoming Tuesday, God, I got to get more dental work done. So I don't know for sure if I'm going to be like too sore or too like numb to talk. I'm going to try to see, but we'll see. But if anything, we'll try to get at least one more episode in before the, start of the NFL draft, which is, I think, late next week, Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. So we can do Monday or Wednesday, or maybe Monday or something. We'll figure it out. So first of all, before we get started, I just want to thank everybody who's reached out for my fundraiser, which was completely crazy. Raised $4,800, which is just remarkable. So thank you for everybody donated, spread the message all over social media, sent me direct messages and emails. I genuinely, including you, dude, I genuinely appreciate it. Crazy experience. If you want the recap, I made a video on it. So, but I'm glad it's over because, like, the one thing, it's cool training for a marathon, but dude, I don't have time to make content or like watch it. You're just so tired. Like, you don't want to do anything. So I kind of slacked on that and just watched yours all the time. So I felt I keep up to speed with things.
Well, dude, I mean, throw on top of it, like, your work and like your social life and everything like that too. So, it's not just like you're training for the marathon and that's freaking it. Like you have a million things going on too. So yeah, one quick question. Have you donated the money yet or no? Not yet.
Yeah, I did the first portion today to the VFW in Queens. And the other portion, they're probably 15 minutes from my house. They want to do an interview. They want to do an interview and a presentation and like make a nice big thing out of it. I requested to not do that. I'm like, I just kind of want to hand you a check and lead. Like, no. Like, you give us a couple $1,000s, man. We want to acknowledge you and do it the right way and have a nice presentation. So I'm like, all right, cool. So that'll be done within the next probably 5 days. So
awesome, man. Yeah, that should be cool.
I don't like being in the public setting, dude. I just want to kind of take it, but they're like, nope, you got to come. So it's pretty cool. But we got lots to talk about, dude. We got some mock draft stuff, but we also have a big thing with the New York Jets. Big news. Alan Lazard restructured, which we never really talked about and kind of caught us both a little bit off guard. I think a lot of people assumed that after June 1st, he'd be gone. Now he takes a huge pay cut, $8.5 million pay cut. Looks like, it's a very tradable contract now. But I think at that price, he's a very good blocker. He's probably going to be here this year, dude. Are you surprised by that?
I was surprised a little bit, but I will say, it kind of takes some of the pressure. It just gives the Jets a little bit more flexibility, right? If you're trying to look for like a positive spin on it, right? Because without Alan Lazard, it's almost like mandatory. Like, you got to come away with a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds. Now it's like, if the Jets love a wide receiver, keeping Lazard doesn't stop you from selecting him. But it's like, in the crazy event that every receiver is gone that you were thinking of, at least you have someone that's playable, that can suit up, that has, some sort of NFL experience. So, I think at the end of the day, it's probably only going to help the Jets, but we'll see what happens after the draft if he sticks around or not.
Yeah, like I said, like they needed experience in the room. He's a legit receiver. He's just very, very inconsistent. He makes the great catch, drops the easy ones. Very good blocker. That pays dividends in this offense because they're going to want to run the ball a lot. But again, like I said, he could be. It's a piece to the puzzle, and he's very tradable now. Now that contract you can trade. That's not a problem at all. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers, he can follow him there. However they want to do it, but it makes a lot of sense, and it gives you cap space too, which is what you desperately need because you want to get after the draft. You don't want to make more moves, whether that's retain your guys, go get other guys. You can make. It's just all about flexibility and give your chance, more opportunities to your team. So I give him credit for it.
Yeah, the one downside of it though is I think he's a $4 or $5 million dead cap hit next year, or could even be a $6 million dead cap next year.
Yeah.
I mean, the cap's going up. It's such a little number, but it's still dead money next season, right? When we're talking about free agents and everything like that. I know it's so far from now, but it's just going to be like, oh, well, we still have to pay Lazard, in 2026, along with Aaron Rodgers too.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Rodgers decided to meet the media today, and not the media, Pat McAfee, and share his side of the story. And to me, the way he handled himself is exactly why the Jets need to move on from him. Like this drama and all this nonsense is exactly why they need to move on. Now, my personal opinion is we talked about this so many times. I'm so tired of talking about this stuff, but my personal opinion is Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, when they interviewed for this job, part of their job was, part of their plan was we're moving on from Aaron Rodgers. This wasn't like, let's sit down and talk to him first. Let's talk and see if we can work out. No, we're going to move on because this is the direction we want to go. Younger, our culture, our voice, our leadership, our direction, period. Not flexible. So if that's the case and you make your decision, it doesn't really matter what he says, right? To me, it doesn't. So I don't think that this new regime owes Aaron Rodgers anything at all. They don't own that. Listen, great, Hall of Fame quarterback, all of this, but they didn't trade for him. He didn't play underneath them. They're coming in and say, okay, listen, you know what? We will meet you in person, but it's not going to work here. We don't want to talk to you. We don't want to know we just don't care. We've moved on. I have no problem with any of this, to be honest with you.
It's players get cut every single year. Teams move on from big name players every single year. But with Rodgers, because he's has such a storied and great career, it's and because of his platform, and he could really dive into the details, you know what I mean? So whenever you're talking about like a breakup situation like this, it's never going to be both sides feel great, like, oh man, that was awesome, and for from the Jets side of it, personally, I really don't see the issue with telling Rodgers to his face. I mean, if I put myself in Rodgers' shoes, okay, I understand maybe the frustration of flying across the country and stuff, which is what he was saying. But, as a first-year head coach, as a former player, first-year general manager in Muji, I'm not going to sit here and just break up over text with a Hall of Fame quarterback. Just, quick 5-minute call. Hey, you're out. We're going to move on. Bye. Yeah, that might have been a little easier for both parties, but just the respect level, like, hey, you know what, I got to tell you straight to your face, like, you're under contract here, but you are like an absolute legend, and we need to kind of have a sit down and just, if it was me, I'm going to explain my piece on why I want to move on, just kind of out of respect for the lineage of Rodgers, right? Just looking at his entire career.
Yeah, but dude, here's my opinion is this: they did it face to face. If they did it over the phone call, Rodgers would be like, you know what? These friggin' clowns didn't respect me enough to bring me into the office. Either way, the Jets did it. He could have made a case like, oh, these guys are idiots. So that's the whole thing. The other thing is, this is also like to this one comment. This is one side of the story. We're hearing Aaron Rodgers' side of the story, like, oh, Aaron Glenn walked out, this and that. Listen, I give this regime credit. They made a clear and concise, decisive decision quick. They said, listen, we're out. We're not keeping him. We're not going to let it drag out. How they go, you told him to his face, and you move on as an organization. No need to comment on it. No need to drag it out. Nobody had all the circus and drama. It's it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think one thing too, if we rewind and just kind of think about what we were talking about before these guys were hired, in regards to, okay, should Rodgers stay? Should he go? Because there were only 3 potential outcomes, right? Rodgers goes, Rodgers stays, or the organization doesn't know. And so it's like this long, sort of thing. Oh, should we keep him? Nah, maybe we should let him go. That was the worst outcome, right? Because at that point, you're putting the draft, you're putting free agency, you're putting 100%. The cap situation in jeopardy. Not so much like, okay, this is going to make or break the offseason, but it's going to determine a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. When you have that uncertainty with that amount of money, with the most important position on the football field, with a person like Rodgers, where there is going to be quotes, there is going to be stories, there is going to be whatever McAfee show appearances, and also pressure. If the organization was maybe split, Muji really wanted him, Glenn didn't, or Glenn really wanted him and Muji didn't, you're getting off on the wrong foot. If you're going to sit there and fire Robert Saleh midway through the year, fire Joe Douglas, fire Jeff Ulbrich, clean house, new front office members, we're going to add Rick Spielman, brand new coaching staff, new schemes, whatever, you're getting rid of all of Rodgers' buddies outside of Lazard, that, like, it's year 1 for everybody. Yep. It just kind of felt weird, like timeline wise, financially speaking, to change everything, but keep Rodgers.
Yep.
And, to me, it just doesn't feel like you're getting off on the right foot if half the building is split. No, we want to keep him. No, we want him gone. Because at that point, whatever happens, half the building is going to be pissed.
Yep.
And like you're talking about lockstep, right? Head coach, general manager, Detroit Lions style, Buffalo Bills style, Baltimore Ravens style, Philadelphia Eagles, right?
Yep.
These teams are moving like, okay, 100% organizational belief. This is what we want to do. We're going to go out and make it happen, execute it. But if the Jets didn't know, if they were split, like, oh gosh, we want them, or some people don't. It's not even the Jets haven't even played in a game yet, and half the building's pissed. So that to me just speaks to continuity, right? That the Jets just knew early, hey, we're going to move on. A decision was made. It was not dragged out.
No, they made their decision and they had their plan B. Go get Justin Fields, and then we move on. And it's like you don't want to come off indecisive. Like the Jets are in limbo. They don't know what they want to do. Like the Steelers right now. The Steelers right now are sitting there like, now Aaron Rodgers is like, well, I have personal things I got to worry about. I got to worry about this, I got to worry about that. Like, do you want to play? Maybe I don't. Maybe like all of this, and it's freaking April 17th, dude. Imagine being the Jets like that as a first-time regime. Be like, well, what are you doing at quarterback? Well, maybe Tyrod, maybe Aaron comes back. If not, we'll pivot. No, you want to have a blueprint and a plan, and they knew this. And they came into this is our plan. This is how we're going about it. We respect them. We don't owe them anything. The only thing we got to tell them is you're not going to be here anymore. To your face, adios, goodbye. And we all move on. Like, I don't, and the whole thing is, well, he shouldn't, this is going to blow up in Aaron Glenn's face. This organization is a rudderless ship. It's been chaos for 3 or 4 years now. They don't know what in the hell they're doing. You need no nonsense guys in here to knock out the nonsense, the drama, almost cursed again, but all these other things going on here. Like, listen, this locker room now knows there's a new sheriff in town here. Whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. You don't like Aaron Glenn? Nobody cares. This is the way he's going to run the team. And it's needed. It may not work, but they have not had a person like this for a while in this office or in this building that has that, you know what? Work harder, you're not going to play. Do this, you're not going to play. Accountability, discipline. That needs to be here. And this is the tone you have to set. And they said it day one, and they're going about this way. And I have no problem with it whatsoever, dude, because it's just, look at where the Jets are. They've tried everything else. Furthermore, they kissed this guy's ass for the last 2 years. The Jets made him the king of everything. He was doing whatever he wanted, however he wanted, at whatever time he wanted to. They don't do that anymore. And they can't. You can't give that power to one player anymore. It has to go back to the front office and the coach. So, dude, I think it's like, I'm glad today's the last day we're going to talk about this because I've already moved on. I want to talk draft. But for people like kind of dumping on the Jets or mocking the Jets, either you're just one of those cynical people that always like being miserable, or you're a hater. Because with the place the Jets are in right now, this had to be done. And I'm glad it was done. I'm glad it was done early, not waiting the day before the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like ripping the Band-Aid off. Just get it done with. The media circus, the dysfunction. And then, if we think back to maybe like the checklist that we all kind of wanted in the next head coach, pivoting away from JD, Saleh, Ulbrich, Hackett, right? All this just dysfunction, all the finger pointing, all of the kind of question marks, walking on eggshells, this, that, so involved with what the media says, so involved with, stories and headlines, going away from that. It, like, lots of Jets fans weren't saying, oh, I want the best defensive mind. I want the best quarterback style of coach. I want the coordinator that's coming away from a team with the most high flying offense. No, it was, we need a culture changer, a culture builder. We need the best leader. Yep. And when you listen to, take your pick, Woody Johnson, Rick Spielman, Mike Tannenbaum, whoever it may be, they all came back to, the coach in Aaron Glenn, who's been around Sean Payton, been around Bill Parcells, been around Dan Campbell, been around Ben Johnson. He's been around great coaches. Really, going back to him as a player and also as an assistant DB coach. Of course, you're looking at just his urgency in press conferences. Yeah, he wants the job. Yeah, he when scouting comes up, oh yeah, I'm going to be a part of that. Offensive side of the football comes up, oh yeah, I'm going to be a part of that. This guy has interviewed so many different areas, right? New Orleans, Washington, Las Vegas, Jacksonville, all these different spots. And it seems like he really, really wanted the Jets. He didn't have to come to the Jets. He could have passed and went to New Orleans. He could have passed and signed on somewhere else, Chicago maybe, right? Like, there were so many different options for Aaron Glenn. And if not this season, next year.
Yep.
I mean, worst case, he goes back to Detroit and has this great defense, and they're going to win a bunch of games anyway. He chose the Jets. So when you talk about New York, it's probably been the most dysfunctional team right next to the New York Giants in the last however many years. Because we're in that position, we need someone to come out and, again, rip the Band-Aid off. We got to make changes. We can't just we can't shift the culture, change the philosophy, add in a bunch of new guys, remove a bunch of guys, and expect that, or essentially you can't come in as a new regime saying, oh yeah, we want to change the culture, and then allow everything that was taking place to continue taking place. Caring about the media, getting bossed around by ownership, all these different things.
No, and I agree with you. And like Aaron Glenn and this staff, they know what they're getting. They know what they're inheriting. Like you said, he wanted this job. He knew what he was getting himself into. Haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. Have no quarterback. Have no this. Have no that. It's like they knew what they were doing. And the other thing is, like Aaron Rodgers' thing was, they didn't pick my mind. Based on what we've seen out of this Aaron Glenn and his staff, they're not worried about his mind. They are assessing every facet of this organization with their own two eyes, saying, you know what? We're going to form our opinions. We're going to make changes of what we think is best. We're not worried about what you think anymore. You had your 2 years doing it. You had your 2 years of running this organization. It didn't work out. Unfortunately, we don't care about your thoughts. We care about our vision and how we assess people, and we go that. We're not going to take any preconceived notions, because think about what he said about Garrett Wilson. Okay, he said, listen, I don't really care what happened last year with Garrett Wilson. I don't care. I care about what I see now going forward. Everybody's got a clean slate. I don't need to do all this investigating. Whoa, did him and Aaron Rodgers get along? Don't care. It's a matter of how do you work with Justin Fields. That's all we care about. Sauce Gardner, we care about how you're going to be in this defense with our coaching. That's all that matters to us. And that's how you do business, dude. So today I thought was just I knew this was coming. The Jets knew this was coming. You knew Rodgers. He's pissed off. He's embarrassed. The Jets cut me. His first time he's a free agent. So he's got to put his spin on to make himself feel better. But in terms of the Jets, it's the move they had to make. I'm glad they did it. I'm glad we're moving on. And we can talk about the draft. Because it's just a whole different era. And everybody said, well, this puts a lot of pressure on Aaron Glenn. He has pressure anyway. The day he got hired, people are like, oh, he's getting fired in 3 years. There's a portion of this fan base that just expects him to fail no matter what. And half of them are probably rooting for it to say I was right. Oh, I told you so. You know what I mean? So it's he knows the pressure. He knows all this. The expectation for this year, people want to win 7, 8, 9 games or to fail. They know all of this. This was the right move. And I'm glad it's over, dude. And the Jets are smart. Don't comment on it. They have nothing to say. That's his story. We don't care about this story. We care about our current team right now.
One thing that I think that really helps Aaron Glenn is you listen to all of the players, former Saints, DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan, all these guys that have been around Aaron Glenn as players, all these guys with Detroit Lions, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, all of them love Aaron Glenn. Yep. They love Dan Campbell talking about Aaron Glenn. He loves him. Ben Johnson talking about him. Loves him. I think that's really important. It would be different because, for example, you're trying to think of those coaches that had maybe that dictator approach where it's oh, I'm a hard ass and we're going to, come in and just lay down the law, iron fist, this, here are the rules, Bill Belichick style.
Yep.
A lot of those guys don't really pan out, the Matt Patricias. Greg Schiano back when he got the job with Tampa Bay was like that. And it just rubs players the wrong way. But yeah, and I'm not saying Aaron Glenn is kind of has that dictator approach, but he's coming in. It just really seems like no nonsense. We're changing things up. This place has been a mess. Losses every year, losses all over the place, continue to fail to live up to expectations. I mean, playoffs is one thing, but how about can we get to 500, 9-8, 8-9? I mean, Joe Douglas, there's really no point to kind of rehash all that, negative stuff in the past. I'm focused on this upcoming season and just kind of the new era here. But it really feels like the approach or maybe the perception with the team. And look, we haven't even seen a game or a practice or any. We literally only have a couple pressers under our belt, right? But it feels right now when I'm thinking about the New York Jets led by Aaron Glenn, Justin Fields, this young staff, first-year GM, it feels like a team that's young, hungry. They're going to scratch and claw, keep their head down and work, focus on getting better in practice, focus on just the day-to-day grind. right? Focus on getting better, as opposed to we already made it. We're really, really, really good. Look at us. Why aren't we being talked about? Super Bowl championship, this, that, um, all talk, really. That's kind of like the Saleh, Joe Douglas. We're going to continuously talk about how good we are, but we're not going to back that up. Results, they don't come. But when we have a sliver of success, now this whole like rubber band effect, this wave of, talking again about how good we played and how the rest of the league should be on notice. It feels like that kind of mentality is gone, which I personally love. Feels like a more humble approach.
Now think about all the free agents they brought in here. You have a young, impressionable team here that's looking for guidance, that's looking to find ways to win, they're looking to maximize their potential to get their big contract and to win football games. And that's what they're hoping that this new regime could do. And there's this approach is like, listen, it's just you're cutting the BS out now. Like, listen, I understand what you guys are used to. It's going to change now. This is our way, and hopefully it works out. Now, in terms of the draft, it's getting really, really interesting because things just the smoke screens are at an all-time high. But I found like 3 or 4 mock drafts that have the same top 5 picks, all the same. And it's going to get really interesting because the guys that, in theory, could be available to the Jets could make things really interesting. And the one thing we never really talk about, we've been talking about Warren and Membu and like this is the best fit for the Jets. It's also, what do the Jets think is the best fit for them in terms of what's their biggest impact player at 7 that can make them a lot better, a lot faster? And it could be on defense for all we know. Like we're assuming like they've got to fix the offense. They got to do this. They may have a guy sitting there at 7 that like, you know what? This guy in our defense is going to make us a lot better, a lot faster. We can win games with defense. So, I've been kind of falling that category where I'm like, yeah, it's got to be offense. I'm kind of brainwashed. But the more you read, the more research you do, you're like, all right, this is getting interesting where, first-time regime, we don't know their mindset. They could actually go defense here, dude. And it's you can't be mad. They have a lot of holes. They could address a hole. So it's interesting to see how this could play out right now.
Dude, the reality is, man, no one really knows how this draft is going to play out. Yeah, I mean, you can look at the mocks. Genty at 6 to the Raiders, Mason Graham 5, Travis Hunter 2, right? A lot of moves make sense. Cam Ward 1, right? That kind of feels like a lock, but think back to last year. Like the Raiders were gunning for Michael Penix, bro, at 13.
Yep.
Michael Penix gets drafted 8th overall to the Falcons, and they just give a 4-year, whatever it is, $100 million guarantee contract to Kirk Cousins. What mock draft had that? So, and last season was very predictable on how the draft was going to go. We knew the quarterbacks were going to go 1, 2, 3. We knew Marvin Harrison was probably like an 80% chance he was going to go to Arizona. We knew that, pick 5, it was either going to be Neighbors or Joe Alt. They go Joe Alt. Yep. 6. Okay, if all the quarterbacks are gone, the Giants will probably go with the best available wide receiver. So it's easy to kind of just like plug in. But this year, dude, with I would say maybe quarterback questions, with the range of grades on specific prospects, with the new regimes in place, or, at the very least, new head coaches picking in the top 10. Think about this, dude. Aaron Glenn, first-year head coach. Mm-hmm. Mike Vrabel, first-year head coach with the Patriots, so he doesn't have his fingerprints on the roster.
Yep.
First-year head coach Liam Cohen at 5. First-year head coach in Kellen Moore at 9. First-year head coach at Ben Johnson 10. Right, all of those are first-year head coaches.
Yep.
We don't know the tendencies of these guys. Yeah, of course, you can look back at previous stops, but you don't actually have that blueprint on what in their mind stands out. Is it the technical polish of a player? Like, do you want that refined technical player, like the corner that just moves super fluid, that has his technique down? You feel good about him in zone, feel good about him in man, that technical polish. Do you go for the athletic,
the freak athlete,
Shamar Stewart, right? And just say, I believe in myself as a coach. I think this guy with this athletic skill set working with me can be an absolute freak show. Like we can get this guy, because you take a look at the bulk of Hall of Famers, chances are that athletic profile is there. And drafting for the high floor, yes, of course, you'll build out a really good team, but you're not necessarily drafting that Hall of Fame potential. You could also argue the whole, seat floor versus ceiling. So there's a lot of different, maybe a regime values position of need, really high.
Yep.
Some teams don't. Some
So
teams really care about off the field. Some teams don't. You know what I mean?
So here, I'm going to give you Todd McShay's last one, but he's very similar. There's like 3 or 4 mock drafts I've seen that have pretty much the same way it falls in each one, which I found really interesting. So first one, Cam Ward, number 1 pick in the draft. I think we all know that. We got it. Pick number 2, pretty much is Travis Hunter. So interesting, makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm not really sure what the Cleveland Browns are doing with quarterback. They brought Flacco back. They got Kenny Pickett. Unless they're going to go quarterback round 2, round 3, they feel there's a better value there. Instead of swinging big in the first round pick, you go second or third round. And then pick number 3 is Abdul Carter, who's tweeting out or posting pictures of Lawrence Taylor. So your thoughts on those first 3 picks? It's not outlandish to see that happening, dude, especially if they're not completely sold on Shedeur Sanders and he falls a little bit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I definitely think Ward is going to go number 1. You know, you don't overpay offensive linemen or, Dan Moore to not make a move at the quarterback position and sign Kevin Zeitler, who's a veteran guard. Why would he literally go from the Lions to the worst team in football record-wise if you don't have a plan at quarterback? So Tennessee, Ward, 2 with Cleveland. Personally, I was thinking originally, okay, it's probably Sanders, Hunter, Carter, one of the 3. I think you can make solid arguments for all 3, but it's looking like right now the Browns will probably pass on quarterback, so you're down to Carter and Hunter. Now, supposedly the Browns have done a ton of work on both. They've spent time with both guys, a tremendous amount with the owner present. But at the end of the day, the Browns have a good defense. The Browns have a great defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. They have Myles Garrett. They have JOK. They have Denzel Ward. They have a lot of good players on the defensive side of the football. It's going to be a good defense. Why did this team last year finish with 3 wins? They didn't get in the end zone enough. The offense was stagnant. Quarterback questions for sure, but they just didn't have that explosion on the offensive side of the football. And Travis Hunter, in my opinion, right, he's the most explosive player in the draft. I want him at wide receiver. I want to dictate his overall impact in the game. If you play him at corner, great. He's going to be a great corner. But the opposing offense can say, okay, we'll just not throw to him. We're not going to run his way, right? We're going to limit his impact in the game. If he's on offense, now I'm in charge of that. And I think whoever's playing quarterback, Pickett, Flacco, trading for Kirk Cousins, whatever, Tyler Shuck, Milrow, whoever it is, if you give someone Travis Hunter, yeah, that's going to be an awesome weapon to have at their disposal, and also take some of the pressure off Jerry Jeudy to make every play in the passing game. Spot number 3, man, this is kind of where I think I would just go with Sanders. I mean, the Giants right now are they're just in I'm almost at a loss for words when it comes to the Giants. It's like every move they make is the wrong one. Yeah, like throughout the years, even like the smaller moves, like letting Xavier McKinney walk and he goes and has a career year with the Packers. It's just like, people can talk about like the Saquon stuff and everything, but extending Daniel Jones, it seems like they get worse every single year. Like the offseason comes and goes, the regular season hits, and they get worse.
Yeah, but I have 2 responses to that. The first is, this is what happens when you have a general manager and the head coach on hot seat. This is when you have a desperate a desperate regime that knows they have to win this year. They're getting fired, where it's like, okay, we go out and sign 2 journeyman quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. We could probably win games with them or be competitive with them. What gets us over the top? Playmakers, dynamic playmakers. And maybe if they evaluate quarterbacks, they say, listen, we like Shedeur, but we also like Jackson Dart as much later on, or Tyler Shuck later on, or Jalen Milrow later on, where we need that big impact player to win games right now. That's Abdul Carter, and the defense already has Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau and everybody else. We can use this much more to our liking now instead of waiting for Shedeur. So I think that's where they're going that direction. So I kind of see that actually happening, to be honest with you. I think once they signed Russell Wilson, I'm like, yep, Shedeur's down. Like, that's just not going to happen anymore. So he continues to fall. So if that is the case, in the theory of these couple mocks that I have right here, the next pick for the Patriots pretty much universally is Will Campbell, because they have a need there. It makes sense. Whether you like Will Campbell or not, you like Membo, whatever it is, that's kind of where the direction this draft is going. Do you see that happening? Do you see them going Will Campbell? Kind of like I understand he's better at guard, better at tackle, but it would fit a hole for them.
I honestly don't like it at all. Objectively speaking, like as just a fan of football, I think first off, if the Giants go with Sanders at 3, Carter's got to be the pick at 4, and you bypass Will Campbell. I think New England, dude, like they've made improvements on the like you're trying to project right into the future. Morgan Moses right tackle, Mike Onwenu right guard, Bradbury center. Is Cole Strange going to be the left guard? I don't know. Left tackle up in the air. This is a team right now. Like if you are the Patriots, just bringing in Stephon Diggs, Mike Vrabel, I don't feel comfortable reaching on a tackle where the biggest concern about him is if he can play tackle at the next level.
Right.
It's not just the arm length, it's the wingspan. I believe the wingspan would be the shortest ever recorded at the combine since 2011. Yep. And the arm length would be bottom 10 in football. And then you take a look at the tape, great production. But when you start comparing it to, guys last season, Olu, JC Latham, Joe Alt, Campbell would probably slot in as the 4th tackle. So right now we're talking about drafting we're talking about a top 5 pick here, dude, on a team that really lacks talent everywhere. And supposedly, there's people in the building that like Will Campbell, and that's fine. I think Will Campbell's a good player, and I do think he's worth a top 15 draft pick, right?
Yep.
And he surely would fit in whether he's left tackle or left guard for New England. The problem is, I just don't want to draft a left tackle at 4 if the biggest knock on him is, can he play tackle? Because if not, now you're drafting a left guard at the 4th pick in the draft with a bunch of team needs. Like if I'm New England, I am trying to trade down desperately. And if Sanders is on the board, you have New Orleans or whatever, Rodgers retires and Pittsburgh wants to come up. Like I'm trying to move down, because if you can move down to 9, get a future pick, get like some extra mid-round picks with New Orleans. New Orleans has 9 total picks in this upcoming class, 2 3s, 2 4s. You can maybe scoop up a couple of those and you just go get Will Campbell at 9. It's much more digestible.
Yeah, but to me, it's like if the Patriots, while they may want to trade down, if you look at all the other teams, who else is going to take Shedeur? To me, the Jets are in a sweet spot at 7. Like, you know what? If he's not going to go top 3, he's going to probably fall to 7. Because who's taking the Raiders? Maybe, but the Raiders need value at 7. They got Geno. They're not going to take. I would be shocked they took Shedeur at 7. So if you're like the Saints wanting to trade up, like maybe I'll go to 7 instead of 4. It's less compensation and it's more likelihood he's probably going to fall to that point.
Right, but 2 kind of responses here. The first, we were just talking about it before. The Raiders were gunning for Penix last year. No one saw Cousins going. Do the Raiders take Sanders? I doubt the Jets would take him, but it's just a game right now. It's easy to say as Jets fans, like, oh, the Jets will do this and do that. But if you are a team that wants Sanders, do you really want to roll the dice and wait? Secondly, the Giants passed on QB early. Todd McShay has been talking about, oh man, the Giants can come back up, Browns can come back up. Like the second he gets past that top 3 mark, you run the risk. And we've seen it done before, right? Houston going from wherever they were, they already had the second pick. They went all the way up to 3. So you don't want to be sitting there as an organization saying like, oh, okay, you know what, we're going to play it safe and we're going to try to like outsmart the league and just, because we're talking about a potential franchise quarterback, right? Long-term option, long-term answer at the QB spot. You don't want to, like, if it takes a couple mid-round draft picks where you already have some extra ones in your bag just to move up and secure it, because you don't want to be the guy or the team sitting at 9 saying, oh man, we really want Sanders, and the Giants jump you, moving up to 5 with Jacksonville or something, or the Browns jump up, because both of those teams have high day 2 picks. So if they want to include a few, Daboll and Stefanski both have pressure. So, I could see a team like that jump up into the top 10. Pittsburgh, right? If they enter the NFL draft and Rodgers is not on that team, Mason Rudolph is the only viable quarterback that they can roll out. Just looking at names on paper. Of course, it will change, but that's just a risky game to play if you love Shedeur Sanders. So for me, if I'm at 4 with New England, I'm trying to trade down, even if it takes, even if you're getting lesser offers, I'm fine with it. Mike Vrabel's going to be here for such a long time. There's no reason to reach on a player like that, in my opinion. Say Will Campbell gets drafted and he's the 17th best left tackle in football. Is that worth the 4th overall pick?
Nope. No, I agree. I'm completely with you. I'm just trying to play the game of how it could play out. And then if I'm the Saints, how far do I want to trade up, right? In my opinion, you're right, though. Another team could be just as aggressive. Now, where it gets interesting, which we talked about in the past, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have absolutely no idea what they have. And this pick from McShay was interesting, was Jalen Walker, a guy we haven't talked about a lot. We've been focusing so much on Hunter and Carter and Campbell and Membu. What's your take on him? Because I've seen mocks where the Jets would be interested in him, which is like, oh, that's a little curveball. What's your take on Walker?
Yeah, I don't know if he would be selected by the Jets, because it's like you're thinking of Jalen. Like, where is Jalen Walker at his best? Like maybe linebacker, first and second down, and then he's coming off the edge on third down. I think the best type of system for Jalen Walker is a system where we can move him around. We can put him on the left side, put him on the right side, have him shoot up the middle, right, flying right past guards and the center. So that's why I think you see a lot of mock drafts with him going 8 to Carolina, because like that 3-4 style of system with Avero at DC. We can. I mean, like, what do the Panthers need? Panthers need a linebacker. Yeah. Panthers need an edge rusher. Yeah. Panthers need an explosive defensive player. Walker's all three of those. Yeah. And he also fits the system, because you're trying to think like, okay, how would he fit with the Jets? Like, you just put him like hand in the dirt, Aiden Hutchinson style, and that's kind of it. It maybe, who knows? Maybe he's great like that.
Is he a good fit with the Jaguars, you think?
I would personally go with Mason Graham, because I feel like where that team struggled was against the run on defense, and they could use some more help on the inside of the defensive line, not on the outside so much. Like, they already have a decent amount of pass rushers, but they don't have enough run stuffers. And I think Mason Graham is considered by a lot of people as a safe pick, and I don't think the Jaguars should maybe go like if they have an opportunity to address a position of need, get better or potentially get better at a major weakness, which is stopping the run. He's sitting there at 5. You don't have to trade up, and he's considered a high floor safe player, and we have that top 5 pick. Let's just not overthink it. Let's just go with the position of need, who at the same time fits that mold as being a top 5 player in the draft.
All right. So for the sake of just this mock draft that was going, you got Cam Ward 1, Travis Hunter 2, Abdul Carter 3, Will Campbell 4, Jalen Walker 5. Okay. Pick 6, Vegas Raiders, Ashton Genty, which I think we all kind of figured that, because running back, crazy speed, great. I mean, that just fits Pete Carroll, what he wants to do with that offense. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense there. I think that's kind of like a universal pick for a lot of people too, having the running back there.
Yeah, I mean, you're helping out Geno Smith instantly, getting like just a bell cow back like this. Does not have to come off the field. 3-down guy, Chip Kelly. He wants to run the football.
So now in this world, at pick 7, Jet fans are going to be having heart attacks, because Shadour's still available, Mason Graham's available, Tyler Warren's available, and Membu's available. So you have your pick of what's your pleasure, right? Because they're all fit needs. They all are legitimate, clean prospects for the most part. Like, where did you go here? What would be your deciding factor for this?
So who did McShay have?
Membu.
Okay. I think I would still go Membu, because the problem with the Jets offensive line in 2026, I think, is massive. If we don't take a right tackle early, and we try to maybe go with the right tackle in round 2 or round 3, and that guy's not there, like, we're thinking like, okay, you know what, like we're going to shoot for, whatever, take your pick, Josh Connerly, or move him over to the right side or someone like that. And then he gets, because like you're trying to project out, right? Round 2, where are the Jets picking? 42.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So who's in front of the Jets that could take a tackle? Bears, they have 2 picks in round 2. Saints at 40. Patriots, right? We just talked about the Patriots. Could the Chiefs at the bottom of round 1 take a tackle? I would say, pretty good shot. Houston's going to be in the mix bottom round 1. There are teams that are going to need tackles. So it's, and I also think too, that because this draft is deep at tight end, because this draft is deep at defensive tackle, there could be maybe the mindset of, let's just go out and get the offensive linemen. If you're a team like Houston or whatever it is, down in that bottom portion of round 1, top of round 2. Let's just take the O lineman now. And because we can go out and get a starting D tackle in bottom of round 2 or top of round 3, because this draft is deep. Same with tight ends. So I think for me, go ahead.
I have 2 questions. Now, I kind of agree with this. If it's possible, if you could trade back to the Saints like we talked about and still get Membu at 9, and then you get draft compensation, that'd be a nice world to live in. Second question I have is, do you see a world where the Jets can say, listen, we love Membu, but we have confidence that we can get a competent quality tackle later on in the draft? Like, we think like there is a drop-off. Obviously, you rank your tier your players, but we understand what Membu is. But we think we can get somebody serviceable. You don't need 5 all-star linemen. We can get somebody later on that we feel comfortable with. Let's go a different direction here at pick 7.
But that guy has to be there, because if he's not,
that's the question.
Then what is the plan?
Yep. No, I'm not. I'm just, listen,
you know,
I'm very crazy chaos. But the other question is, to me, bringing in Fields pushes the Jets quarterback needs to 4th round, 3rd, 4th round later on. Like, to me, Shador's not in the equation. I understand what the player is, and I think the Jets are comfortable with that. Like, they're willing to say, listen, if he's here, we're going to try to trade back, let somebody else have him, but we're going to pass on him. I don't think it's really arrogance. It's based on how they're developing their team, and they have a guy that they think for the next 2 years should be their either placeholder or could be their future quarterback for all we know. But are you kind of in that spot where, like, 1st and 2nd round, based on whether you like him or not, based on what they gave Fields, that's their guy. They're not going to go quarterback in these 2 rounds.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I love Sanders. Sanders would be my pick if we didn't sign Fields. If we just had Tyrod or whatever, Rodgers came back, Sanders would be the pick at 7. But because we have Fields at 26 years old on a 2-year deal, and the Jets give him that amount, I want to just see what Fields has. Because I don't know, like I'm not, like, you can argue take the quarterback, one pans out, one, is just on the bench. You can trade that quarterback to like an unknown team and get like a draft haul similar to like Jimmy G. But Jimmy G was a 2nd round pick, not a top 10 pick. So because you have your solidified quarterback position, at least for this season, go out and give him a weapon or improve the team in one facet, right? If you want to go defense, it would be more justifiable in my opinion, because it's Aaron Glenn and because it's year 1, and it's not like the Jets just, in my opinion, don't have the pressure of a Giants, of a Brown to like, oh my God, we have to triple our win total or something crazy like that, right? I mean, how many wins did the Giants have? 3. If the Giants get 6 wins next year, everyone's gone. So they have to double, at the very least, double their win total next year. Washington's not getting any worse. Philly's not getting any worse. Dallas is only going to get better with Prescott coming back. And again, Cleveland, same deal, right? 3 wins. Like, they have 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins. It's not 7 wins. Arguably, it's not going to cut it. The Jets aren't in that spot. The Saints aren't in that spot. They can kind of operate more freely. Let's just go out and target like the best player that makes the most sense for us, someone that's really going to set the tone, kind of be the headliner of this draft class, and hopefully at the same time fill a position of need. I have a question for you though.
Okay.
Could we see, I mean, the answer is yes, right? As far as like, could we see it happening? But what are your thoughts on Shamar Stewart being drafted 7th overall to the Jets?
It's funny.
They've done a lot of homework on Shamar Stewart.
I was going to ask you the same freaking question, because like the more you dig around and like we're thinking what we want based on the way we watch the Jets for the last 5 years. We need offensive linemen. We need this. We need that. And then you figure Aaron Glenn's going to want this dominant defense to mold his defense for the style that he wants. And if that guy fits the style he wants, he doesn't really care about what we think about Tyler Warren and Membu. He's going to pick that player. My question for you is, I don't know what, I just have a weird feeling. I think about it more and more. Like, but what would be, say the Jets make that pick, what would be say you're Darren Muji now. You're now the general manager. Congratulations. How would you present that to the media and the fans as you could take Mason Graham too. Like, how do you present it to us? But listen, we want to improve the offense. We want to do this. And now you got you're picking defense, which is going to, sell it to me. Present it to me. Make a good case for both these players.
Well, I think the precursor is they don't care really what anyone thinks about them, which I think is
a positive
needed for this Jets team. So with that said, if I'll talk about it from Aaron Glenn's side of it first, because if Aaron Glenn doesn't want him, the Jets aren't going to draft him.
Happen, right? I agree.
It's not like a JD Saleh thing, where you kind of felt like Douglas was all about BPA. Saleh was more so like, I want players that like fit my system type of thing, which is why I think we saw a lot of players not work out. I think if I'm Aaron Glenn, pick comes in, it's freaking Shamar Stewart. Holy dude, I'd be going nut. Like I'd be like going crazy on draft night. I'd be stunned, but I'm not going to sit here and rule it out. But I think how you would spin it is Aaron Glenn can say, hey man, this is year one. We're talking about one of the most important positions in football. You know, we're in the AFC, unfortunately. Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, who's in our division. Drake May looks pretty good. CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, all of these great quarterbacks in the AFC. We have to attack quarterbacks. Shamar Stewart, easily the most athletic player in this draft. One of the literally a top 5, top 6 most athletic defensive end to come out in how many years? Like 30, 40? Like that is like his athletic profile is almost unheard of, which is just like it's comparable to Myles Garrett as far as just physical presence and things like that, his power. By the way, Shamar Stewart's actually a really, really good run defender for what it's worth. I know, not many people want to hear that, especially looking at the sack number, but for what it's worth, Shamar Stewart, I think, is, when it comes to stopping the run, setting an edge, really, really good and will be really good at the NFL level. To me, he's similar. I think he might have a similar career to like a Jadeveon Clowney, where you can play him in a 3-4, you can play him on a 4-3, hand in the dirt. He's going to like always be stout, never be pushed around in the running game, and will occasionally give you like these pops of pass rush, right? Where like he'll make one play and it's just like, this guy can have 16 sacks, 17 sacks if it was consistent, but it's not consistent. And so, maybe he's like in that 8 sack per season type of guy. And then he has the occasional 12. And that's the type of player who I think Shamar Stewart's going to be if he lands with the right team. But I do feel like to draft a player with that type of production in the top 10, you have to be 1000% sold. You cannot pass on Graham, Membu, Warren, all the wide receivers, potential trade back opportunities. Draft Shamar Stewart and have him not work out. The Jets have gone down that route before. Quentin Coples, man. Golston, right?
Golston, yep.
Yeah, it has not gone well. Now, of course, you could push back and say Shamar Stewart has literally nothing to do with those past regimes, nothing to do with those players that didn't work out, which is fair. You can take a look at, Danielle Hunter, I think is a good example, right? Fair. What do you have? 4.5 sacks in his career as well. Played in 38 games. Shamar Stewart, 37 games. Very like similar athletic profile, just so damn intimidating. I think Hunter was a better maybe prospect because of just his ability to get in the backfield, wrap up. His tackles were a lot higher than Shamar Stewart's. It would be a massive curveball, but this is just me trying to kind of sell you the idea on putting my shoes.
Well, because and this is to point one thing, I forgot who put the comment in here, but it's actually true. It's, and Aaron Glenn actually said this. They want to accumulate all their talent and then put together their system. So they're not going to say, listen, we have this, we have that, we're good. No, they want to accumulate talent. Now, what would be your selling point for Mason Graham there? They say, listen, we know Membu's here, we know Tyler Warren's here, Mason Graham's still available. Like, how would you sell that to us?
Right. Well, with Stewart, you're essentially selling the upside. You're selling, okay, very important position. Jermaine Johnson's coming off the Achilles. We don't know if he's going to have a setback. We don't know if he's going to have the same burst. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Maybe he looks great. Maybe there's a setback. I don't know. Whenever you're talking about an injured player coming back, like off a big injury, like you have to ask that question. And also Glenn is like, the Lions still need edge rushers to this day. Like they were there for a long time and they never really Hutchinson is fantastic, but it's like, when Hutchinson went down, it was an issue. We can't get after the passer. We need to get after the passer. And if you have this athletic, again, just crazy profile, I want to work with someone like that. He's more athletic than Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Like he is. Glenn can look at that and be like, as a former Aggie, I want to get this guy in the locker room and put him in my system. I want Wilkes to work with him. With Graham, it's a lot easier of a sell. Top 5 player at spot number 7. That should win over most people just with that statement alone. Position of need, stops the run. The Jets struggle with stopping the run.
Yep.
Now, all of a sudden, you take a disruptive player like Mason Graham and you give him someone like Quinnen Williams to play with. It's not like Graham's going to have to do all the work, all the heavy lifting. And you can argue Graham's fit with the Raiders as well as the Jags because both teams have defensive or talent on the defensive line. So I think Graham is ultimately going to be a huge winner from this draft, assuming he pans out, because no matter where he goes, Giants at 3, Browns at 2, right? It's not going to happen, but for the most part, even if he lands in Carolina at spot number 8, he's going to be playing next to Derek Brown, which is a win. It's not a situation where they're drafting Mason Graham and it's going to be like, well, you got to do everything, rush the passer, and be your number 1 run stuffer. With the Jets, you can kind of, give him not many responsibilities because the talent on the defensive line is pretty damn good. So I really don't think there needs to be kind of a pitch for Mason Graham.
Yeah, and the question I have, well, not the question, the comment I have to that is we talked about this the last 2 months where it's like you want these first 3 picks. It's the sum of all parts. You want to have a very good group, like the good trifecta here, where you get good value and you improve your team overall. If you say you do Mason Graham in round 1, to me, in my mind, that I need offense, I'm like, okay, in round 2 and round 3, what's my best value there? Am I still getting my tackle? Am I going to get a tight end? Am I going to go receiver? Like, how does it tier down? Because, the tight end class is pretty deep, but there could be a run on them too. Like everybody loves Colston Loveland, and it could be the top guys could be gone. Now you're like, all right, are we going to be bottoming out where you're not getting your top tier, you're getting the lower part of your mid tier of tight ends, and then you go wide receiver then? So if you go defense in round 1, what's your approach round 2, round 3, based on the depth in the draft?
I think tackle and pass catcher would obviously have to be up top. The question is really how much of a drop off is each individual player at each individual position, right? So, like if I were to ask you right now, who's the 14th best tight end in football?
Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, it could be just someone like that who just, by the way, signed for $3 million. Someone like that. Who's a top 5 tight end?
Yeah. Kelsey, you get all these guys, Laporta, all these guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So the names you're thinking, damn, game changer, helps out the quarterback, security blanket, true threat. Whereas the 14th, which is an above average tight end, like one doesn't even come to mind, like just right off rip. So if you think Fannin or Mason Taylor or Elijah Arroyo is going to be like the 19th best tight end, 18th best tight end in football, is that worth a 2nd round pick? Probably not. Nope. Because you can go out and spend $5 million and get similar production. But if you think a tight end is top 5 worthy, this guy could be Kittle, this guy could be whatever, Laporta, even like a Dalton Kincaid, I think is worth mentioning as far as like top 6, top 7 tight ends. Brock Bowers too. Like if we can get that type of impact, now all of a sudden, okay, you know what? Maybe we do lean Tyler Warren early.
But I mean, do you think as fans we're overhyping the Jets' need tight end position? We're putting a lot bigger value on it than maybe the Jets are themselves. We're like, listen, it's a position we have a need. You have Rucker, you have Smart, whatever. But it's like, all right, but are we putting it more of a need than they think they are? We're like more a priority.
Well, I think fans probably look at the team and say, hey, Justin Fields is 26 years old. He's been a guy who's really thrown to the tight ends a lot, really throughout the course of his career. Freiermuth last year, Cole Kmet the first 3 years. So he's kind of relied on that position. We don't really have like a consistent threat as a pass catcher, taking out the running backs in the passing game. So it's like, hey, we let Conklin go, or we didn't bring Conklin back. Yeah. Now, who knows if Conklin wanted to leave or whatever, but if Garrett Wilson's our only threat and we naturally want to run the football and Fields is mobile, as a defensive coordinator, what the blueprint, like if you had to play the Jets tomorrow, what the blueprint is. Yeah. You got to stop the run, bring like that extra strong safety down. Maybe you could plug in a different linebacker and just say, okay, we're going to just put our corners on islands with Lazard and Josh Reynolds. and force Fields to get to that read and then force that wide receiver to beat our corner. And just you're constantly living in third and longs.
So I guess my question before you go on is just in the world we're playing right now, Mason Graham's first round pick, second round, we're going tackle. So you got your defensive tackle, you got your offensive tackle. Okay. Your lines are dressed, which is very important. At that point, do you say, let me call the Philadelphia Eagles and see what they want for Dallas Goedert, who last year was contract, 29 years old. We were texting about him earlier today, where the compensation may not even be picks for this year's class. It could be next year's class. So obviously if you trade for him, he's going to want a new contract. But, look what your compensation is. Look at the player you're getting, and you're not giving up assets this year. That's kind of a win-win based on how you feel about the player, right? When you look at it that way?
Yeah, and I also think the longer you wait, the cheaper you can get him. Because if the Eagles go out and draft a tight end, they're losing a lot of leverage as far as a trade, talk. I mean, you can argue, okay, if you're talking a 2026 draft pick as it is, that's a pretty good deal. Like if you can get Dallas Goedert for a 2026 fifth round pick, that's pretty good for a team that needs a tight end. That's solid. Of course, you have the kind of flip side of it where it's like the Eagles are one of the best ran teams in football. If they're moving off a guy like this, there's a reason. And they continue to outsmart everyone in football by flipping players or letting players go. And they're maybe not as great with their next teams. And also they have backup plans. Like they're not just this franchise that has no idea what they're doing. Like there's a calculated plan with everything that they do. But with that said, Goddard on this Jets team, instant tight end one, instant weapon in the passing game. And I think that would be, obviously a big time help at that position, because you'd have to ask the question, okay, if we're trading a 2026 fifth rounder, right? Mm-hmm. Is that 2026 fifth rounder going to be a better player than Dallas Goedert? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. Yep. Now, of course, you can argue, okay, length, longevity, contract size, this and that. But, I think Goddard's not the perfect player. I'm not going to give up a fourth rounder for him. I'm concerned with the injuries. I'm a little concerned with the age and everything. But, I mean, if you pass on Warren, you don't feel great about tight ends at 42, and you want to go O-line or whatever, you go Mason Graham, BPA, attack O-line in round 2. Now all of a sudden you're trading for Goddard. Now it opens up round 3 for, whatever, a strong safety, a wide receiver, something like that. Yeah.
No, that's what I was thinking. Like, I understand like the injury risk, and maybe the only thing could be is he wants some kind of ridiculous contract, but probably be his last big payday in theory. But you're looking at compensation next year. If it's at a reasonable contract, if you're still, and it's like you're allowing yourself to make more moves this year, which I like a lot. Now, this was all based on Mason Graham and kind of going defense. If you go, pretty much every mock draft I see now is kind of going away from Tyler Warren and going Membu, which we've talked about. To me, it's like, are there players in round 2? Because the Jets, you get Membu, but you think the Jets get aggressive and say, okay, listen, we need a legitimate playmaker in this offense. We didn't get him in round 1. Do you think they try to move up in round 2 to get that guy, whether it's a wide receiver or tight end, or they stand pat? Because according to a lot of draft experts, that's where the hot part of the draft is. It's like that late first round, and all in that area where there's a lot of good talent. Do you move up there, and that's where you make your splash?
I just don't know if this is the draft where I'm willing to trade picks away if I'm the Jets for a wide receiver specifically.
Okay.
I just don't love, like these guys are good. Like I like Royals from Utah State, Higgins from Iowa State's kind of like the big one that everyone throws out.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of McMillan. I still really, really like him. I think Travis Hunter's elite. Matt Golden, I think, is an interesting option. Someone who can stretch the field,
He'll be like a top 15 pick, though, no?
What?
Well, wouldn't Golden be like a top 15 pick?
I think he's probably going to be top 20. I think the floor for Golden is probably Chargers at 22.
Okay.
But I'm just talking wide receiver class in general.
Yeah.
When you start getting down like past Higgins, like so for example, like Kyle Williams, Washington State.
Yeah.
Again, maybe Royals from Utah State, Noel from Iowa State. How much of are those guys going to be 80 catch guys per season? Yeah. And if the answer is no, it's like 35, 45. it's like, okay, there's a role for that in for offenses, but is that worth the second round pick? I would much rather go with like a starting caliber D tackle in round 2, where I feel great about his run stuffing abilities, because it's easy. Like the whole BPA versus position of need, I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a question that, it's a little, it's overblown, it's over exaggerated, but what's a position that the Jets don't need? Like as a starter, like maybe like edge, right? Jermaine
Maybe.
Johnson, Will McDonald, like a slight need, but would you rather take Myles Garrett on this team or Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Yeah.
But Smith and Jigba fill in a need, good player, upgrade, wide receiver 2 on the roster, but you're going Garrett. He plays a more important position. He's a better player. So again, it's an over exaggerated type of question, but when it comes to the draft, dude, it's like, okay, well, if you feel like you have a player that is much higher, like he grades out at a much higher level than the position of need, I would rather just go with that player than the position of need.
Yeah. It's fascinating, dude, how you evaluate what positions of need actually are, how you prioritize them, like what's a bigger need than the other ones, and your best player available. You can go so many different directions. Now, if you go Tyler Warren at 7, which we talked about all of this stuff, it's like then it gets really interesting in terms of, all right, those tackles that we had a concern about the depth after like how much the drop off is, then it's like then you can be facing that challenge. Is taking a tight end that important to you? Is he that good of a prospect that you're willing to take a chance on finding a tackle later on? Would you feel comfortable with that?
I mean, that's the risk, right? So really the question is, A, do you feel good about the tackles later on? And then B, will those tackles be there? Because chances are if you feel really, really good about them, other teams feel good about them too.
Exactly. That's and the thing is Tyler Warren that great of a prospect where you're going to say, I don't want Mason Graham, I don't want Membu. This is our guy that's going to number 7 pick in the draft, dude. He's going to legitimately change our offense for us and become that excellent asset for Justin Fields. Is he that player?
Right. I mean, I love Warren. I think he's going to be really good. But at this point, I'm leaning Membu. You look at a team in like the Tennessee Titans, a team that actually has like some pretty good players: Ridley, Snead, Pollard, Cushenberry, J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski. But what was like the downfall of Jeffrey Simmons? What was like the downfall of that team? It was the right side of the offensive line, just falling apart, just unplayable. But yet Cushenberry is a solid center. J.C. Latham is now going to be moved over to the right side, and he showed some promise. He wasn't perfect, but he showed promise. You have Skoronski, who's I would say a pretty damn good guard. So you have 3 of the positions figured out on the O-line, 2 of which are very, very young, like young building blocks for the future. Yeah. And yet the offensive line production as a whole was awful because the right side was just so bad. So I'm not saying that the Jets are going to be in that same spot. And you could always argue, okay, waiver claim, throw Max Mitchell out there if he doesn't work out. Okay, Carter Warren if he doesn't work out. Okay, Okafor, he doesn't work out. You're now 0 for 3 with right tackles.
It's a problem.
Yeah, that could be a problem, but at least you threw 3 different players out there. It's not like we just don't have any bodies to suit up, and now we're like forced into like starting a UDFA. At least you can say like, okay, some of these guys have NFL experience, but I think really in the future, and we've talked a lot about this, dude. But so I'll keep it short. But start of 2026, Olu under contract, Tippmann under contract, but Tippmann's in the last year of his deal, so he's probably going to want a new deal. John Simpson, left guard, free agent. AVT, right guard, free agent. And we still don't have an answer at right tackle. So if you want to go with Warren or a pass catcher or whatever, a trade down in round 1, and you pass on right tackle and you don't get one that you like in round 2, because the worst place you want to be is, again, reaching for a player that you don't love. Like New England, bro. Off the top of your head, what is the biggest needs for the New England Patriots? Like top 2 needs.
Offensive line.
Okay. Probably like a wide receiver for Drake May outside of Diggs.
So. Yeah. Well, they got Diggs. Probably that coming off injury too. Yeah.
Right. So you're looking at the Patriots draft class last year. Drake May, awesome A+ pick.
Yeah.
Rounds 2, rounds 3, and 2 picks in round 4.
Yeah.
We're offensive line and wide receiver. And we're sitting here a year later saying this team really needs help at offensive line and wide receiver. So I don't want to waste is a strong word, but I don't want to use a 3rd round pick on a guy that we don't love at the tackle position. And we're just throwing our hands up saying, we got to take a tackle now.
Yeah. Now, in terms of trades, can you see the Jets trading anybody off the roster during this draft? We talked about in the past, like, just in theory, Breece Hall or Quincy Williams. Do you see anybody? Can you see any surprise trades where they evaluate the roster, they evaluate the contracts, they met with the player says, listen, man, I want to win. I don't want to be here anymore. Can you see that happening prior to the draft, during the draft this year?
It's so tough to predict because we just don't know. Like, we have so many unanswered questions. What are the schemes going to look like? These guys haven't had one-on-one coaching. It's not like we have any reports to go off of. Like, for example, like in like last year, like, there was like T. Higgins trade rumors because they didn't want to extend him. But and like, what was the root cause of that? Like, ownership might not want to pay. So we have an actual cause on like what might be the trigger. But with the Jets, it's like you never know. Like, Sauce Gardner could improve his game tremendously under Aaron Glenn. Garrett Wilson could look so much better under Aaron Glenn. I kind of feel like the team is going to want to get their hands on the roster first and then start moving players just to see who fits and who doesn't before they just start dumping players and opening up more needs for a team that has a lot of needs, sending away good players, because you're not going to trade a player away to a team and they're actually giving you something of value for a player that's not good. And by the way, in regards to Breece Hall, there's so much talk about whatever drafting Genty and stuff, but why would an NFL team trade away a good draft pick for Breece Hall when this draft class is loaded with running backs?
That's my point. I don't see it. Well, it's twofold. It's you're giving up compensation and you got to give him a new contract. So it's like a double hit. Like, why do that? And there are some concerns about his health and his ability coming forward. Like, is he going to be the player we thought he was? You saw the article now slowly coming out for Breece Hall. Like, they didn't like his toughness at times. He didn't get the hard yards. He was kind of a flash player. Like, all of these different things are like, that's why he's not getting traded. Not now, at least, because you're not going to do it, especially before the draft. It makes no sense to, dude. It's just the value makes no sense to another team. It doesn't. Now Quincy does, though, because Quincy's interesting because he could literally say, I want a new contract. I've earned it, and he's right. So if he plays hardball at the Jets and says, I'll hold out or whatever, then it's like, do you want to deal with that? What's his value? A little bit older. Like, how do you handle something like that? That's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because 3 teams that come to mind that really need help at linebacker, Seattle being one of them, but the 49ers with Saleh are a team that really needs help at linebacker, and Jeff Ulbrich with the Atlanta Falcons really need a linebacker. So I know there might be a bit of a scheme change with the Falcons. It's not going to be like 1-to-1 to what the Jets were doing last year, but with the Niners, bro, it's going to be the same defense with Saleh. So I would look for San Fran to maybe pick up the phone and call. But San Francisco, they have multiple holes on the O-line, multiple holes on the D-line, holes at corner. They traded Debo.
Yeah. They got to pay Purdy.
Yeah, they got to pay Purdy. They could probably use one extra safety. I just look at the 49ers, man. Like, they lost a lot. They lost Banks. They lost Ward. They lost a lot of players, man. Greenlaw going to Denver. I think are the Niners in a position to trade away draft picks? But at the same time, San Fran is win now. What is a 4th round pick compared to a starting caliber, literally an all-pro player in Quincy Williams? You know what I mean? But then if you're the Jets, would you even do that?
Well, that's the question. It's like, how great a player is. Is it going to be a distraction? Does he say, listen, I want out. I'm tired of losing. I want to get paid. I think I'm going to lose this year. I want the money. You don't know. It doesn't seem like he's that kind of player. He's already working out with the team. But I'm just saying, it's at some point money talks. It's like you could be the best team player in the world until they say we're not going to pay you on May 15th. You know what I mean? So the other thing is, we didn't talk about this position a lot, but the safety position could be a huge hole in this team, depending on what you think about Tony Adams, right? Now, where would you put that as a priority in terms of like I've been talking, wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, my first 3 picks. Do you think safety becomes a priority to Aaron Glenn based on what you think his defense could be and like a pressing need? And where would you take him at?
I think strong safety is a huge need.
It is
a huge need. I mean, you look at like the run support last year, not good. You look at the angles taken last year, not good. You look at the depth this year, not great.
Nope.
And I think, you're trying to search for like, okay, who could be like the Brian Branch of the Jets, right? Because Cisco will be like the Kirby Joseph, like that the center fielder in the back end coming up, making plays, when passes are short or go over the middle of the field. Of course, stopping the run, like quick little turnaround routes to tight ends. That's going to be Cisco's responsibility. Yeah. And I love Cisco, man. I think he's going to be really, really good. But who's going to be that Brian Branch style of role, right? Playing up close towards the box, run supporting type of safety, someone who you can send on blitzes, someone who can maybe cover the slot if Michael Carter gets banged up. Yeah. I personally would look at Jalen Reed from Penn State.
In what round?
I really, really like round 3.
Okay.
But, it's not a guarantee that he's going to be there. So, but I think he fits perfectly with what the Jets want to do as far as like bringing up that strong safety, someone who's been great in run support, someone who takes great angles to the football. I really like Reed a lot. But, if you're a team that needs a strong safety, like Jacksonville can definitely take Reed top of round 3. I don't know. There's like Makuba from Texas. I prefer Reed, but I would look at round 3.
Yeah, because that's a position we really haven't talked about a lot. Safety. We're focused on so many other things, but I think Armand's saying the Niners have 11 picks this year.
Dude, I did not know that, man. That's a great call. Let me actually look up their exact list.
It's right here. It's on the screen.
Good call. 11. Good call.
That's
so they have a lot of mid-rounders.
Yeah.
You pick 100 through 160. You could probably get something for, like, the Jets could probably scoop one of those picks for Quincy. But then again, you're now opening up a hole. And do you argue, okay, that pick's now going to a linebacker?
Hey, well, I'll take one of those picks for Tony Adams if they want. Salah's best friend.
They do. Yeah, they need a safety.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting, man. This draft is so unpredictable, man. We talk about it every week, but it's like I've gone through it so many different times, and you can make a case for so many different scenarios. And the Jets at 7, it's just like, wow, it's gonna be a lot of great players available, but what position, what way they go is gonna be so fascinating, man.
Yeah, I think it's the bottom line that like Jets fans can like hang our hats on is we're having this discussion of multiple players. Sorry, I got the semi truck going by. Multiple players making sense for the Jets. Yep. And we're going to have our choice. And the choice is, okay, what good player should come to us? As opposed to, great, we got to reach. The player that we really want is not going to be there. There's only one player that makes sense or 2 players, and he's being projected, to go before us. Like New England, they would love Travis Hunter. They would love Abdul Carter. Yep. Sanders makes no sense. Campbell makes no sense. Will Campbell, you can argue it, but I don't think that makes – I personally think that's a reach, like we were talking about before. New England, it's just a tough spot to be in. But, New York, it's just like, yo, I'm cool with this guy. You know what I mean?
The benefit of being a bad team. we got plenty of flexibility. How the hell is this an hour and 15 minutes already? That's just crazy to me.
Flew by.
That's crazy. Is there anything else? We covered a lot. Did we miss anything?
No, I think we're good.
So we're going to try to get another show in before the draft next week. So stay tuned. Either maybe we'll do it Monday or I don't know, basically how you feel, maybe Wednesday or something like that. We'll definitely figure it out and we'll announce it. It'll be on Ian's channel. And then, and for the draft, you're going to be live, right? You're going to do the whole draft.
Day 1 and day 2, I'll be live. And then day 3, I'll probably do just kind of like reaction videos. Also, that's like an 8-hour.
It's an all day.
It's actually on my birthday too. So I don't know. I might have.
Oh, look at you. You have to have a birthday stream, man. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Dude, and day 3 is always my favorite, man. Cause I like day 3. I like to be really locked in to see like who's going where, like those first picks that come off the board in day 3. And also too, I like seeing like where the developmental quarterbacks go.
And I won't miss Joe Douglas trading back 75 different times either from like more 6th round picks.
Well, we don't know, man. Maybe Muji
imagine?
trades more.
Could you imagine? Well, thank you guys for joining us again. I apologize for my content the last like week or two, man. I've been just so busy and just tired, and we've been trying to work things out ourselves with our schedule. So we'll be back on schedule. He's covering the draft. He's streaming for it. We'll be live either Monday or Wednesday, something next week. Try to get our final predictions. You got to lock it down next week, Ian. Your final prediction for the draft. Like, we'll do the first 3 picks. So
Yeah, man, I'm feeling pretty good about Membu, but I don't know Shamar Stewart though.
I did the same thing. I started doing more research. I'm like, oh shit, this could be an Aaron Glenn pick right here. It could be, and it's their first year, dude. They're like, hey man, first year, we're building things. This is our vision. We can't question it. They're not gonna get fired over it, so they can get bold if they wanted to.
Yeah. Well,
thank you guys.
We'll both be spending time watching like Shamar Stewart highlights tonight.
Do shit. We probably will be. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you sometime next week. Have a great weekend. In New Jersey, it's going to be 80 degrees on Saturday, so get outside and enjoy some sun. Talk to you guys later.